guys! So the article I chose this time was how we integrate project-based learning into social studies, and I think we have talked about this before in classes. It says the National Council for Social Studies recommends that elementary teachers devote 20% of their academic time to social studies instruction, but this time falls short. So we all know that. We're in classrooms. We hardly ever see social studies, and if we do, it's usually a lecture and then some worksheets or a PowerPoint with some definitions and dates and not really any facts or what social studies is about or why they're learning it. So we know how it goes. So this is talking about, I wrote a lot of notes. It says the purpose of elementary social studies is to enable students to understand, participate in, and make informed decisions about the world. So we as teachers need to find ways where we can incorporate social studies so students understand it in a way of real world situations. So it talks about how these skills are vital to the development of informed decision-making citizens. Instruction should provide opportunities that develop skills for productive problem solving and decision making, and students should be able to make connections and expand their knowledge and viewpoints through social studies. So it just talks about how we need to integrate social studies, not just have like a set aside social studies time, but how we can incorporate it with other subjects as well. When they're doing that, though, teachers should help students formulate historical questioning, gather information from a variety of sources, evaluate authentic and reliable sources, compare conflicting accounts, take the perspectives of people in the past, and connect it to pieces of information. So we can do that in other subjects as well. So in English we talk about points of view. We can throw in some social studies. We can throw in social studies with that and how there's different sides. So like the branches of government, there's different sides, and we can get political with it. So we can tie it in. So we as teachers just need to know how to do that. And then I also talked about how there's a fear of how the process of integrating project-based social studies can be a problem. So it talked about how one of their fears was where is it? This time. The issues of concern were students' capabilities, discipline, time constraints, equipment, inequality, and the cost of implementation. So those were some of those fears. But it says teachers who model, task, and make connections to concepts will provide students with the necessary support to be successful. So model it. Model to your students what they're supposed to be doing, how they're supposed to be doing it. So if we're supposed to be teaching about citizenship, how do you model that? You give them classroom jobs. We've talked about this before. You give them roles in your classroom. So it talked about how your classrooms can be a bit crazy when you do project-based, and that's because you're giving students, that kind of freedom to explore and investigate situations on their own and construct their own knowledge about history. It also talks about how when you implement project-based learning, the teacher is not the teacher anymore. You become a facilitator because you're wanting students to discover this information on their own and kind of just lead the way. But another concern they had was students and their ability to complete the task. So you're going to have those ELL students or students with IEPs or special needs students. So pair them, with students who have different strengths so they can help each other. And so it just talks about how to implement that. And then they also provided a sample lesson plan, I believe is what it was, and it was just a picture. They showed a picture, and they gave them some historical information, and students had to do research on it from what they can conclude from the picture, which we've heard about that before, so I'm not going to go into detail with that. Then it just says that using project-based learning as an instructional method to drive content integration can be an effective way to help students learn how to think. So I totally agree with it. I think my article was awesome, and I got a lot of information from it. Yes, there's fears, but you know, you can overcome those. There's always another way around it. So that's all I have. Thank you.